Chief executive says abuse of organ donation system is unacceptable. John Lee also says no timeline will be set for prosecutions in relation to anti-government protests. Housing Authority is expected to tighten rules for wealthy tenants. Hello and welcome to TVB News. Chief Executive John Lee said he has asked the police to investigate attempts to disrupt Hong Kong's organ donation system. The trend was said to have started after authorities revealed plans to establish a cross-border organ matching mechanism with the mainland. Jackie Lin reports.
Currently, Hong Kong's opt-in system for organ donation has more than 357,000 registrants. They are enrolled in this centralized organ donation register. Alternatively, the public can sign and carry this organ donation card to indicate willingness to donate organs after death. But having signed the card doesn't necessarily mean their names are put on the centralized donation register. Last December, 4-month-old baby girl Cleo Lai, who suffered from heart failure, was saved by a heart transplant donated from the mainland. The unprecedented effort prompted Hong Kong authorities to plan and set up a cross-border organ donation mechanism. After that, and up until April, authorities found some 5,800 withdrawal applications were made via the Organ Donation Register's website, which is said to be significantly higher than previous records. More than half of the requests were invalid, meaning some applicants had never opted into the centralized register or made repeated attempts to withdraw. Speaking before today's Executive Council meeting, Chief Executive John Lee said he has told the police to look into whether any crime has been committed amid the surge in deregistrations.
It is dubious and suspicious. I strongly condemn such attempts to detract the value of this organ donation initiative, because this is a disgrace.
Alex Lam, chairman of Hong Kong Patients' Voices, said police intervention might backfire as it could distort and dampen people's willingness to register as a donor. The hospital authority stresses the cross-border organ matching mechanism would only be activated when they are unable to find a match for organs among local recipients. Also, mainland hospitals won't be able to access patients' records in Hong Kong. Professor Philip Lee at the Department of Medicine and Therapeutics at the Prince of Wales Hospital added, chances are slim that the mainland would tap Hong Kong organs because the city's demand is way higher than its current supply. Currently, more than 2,400 Hong Kong patients are seeking kidney transplants. Between 2019 and 2022, fewer than 60 bodies donated their kidneys. A different story on the mainland. Every year, 17 million organs are transplanted. Around 1,100 organs found no suitable matches in their pool of recipients annually on the mainland. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Sources said the Hong Kong Housing Authority planned to tighten its well-off tenants policies to stop undeserving tenants from living in public housing. The policy revisions include the requirement for such tenants to declare whether they own any property every 2 years. Timothy Lee reports.
Currently, residents who have lived for 10 years in public housing must declare whether they own property in the SAR once every 2 years. Those who do not own property must also declare information related to their monthly household income as well as total assets to show whether they have exceeded the current income and asset limit. Sources said the Hong Kong Housing Authority is planning to tighten such measures to prevent misuse of the city's public housing. With the implementation of the new measure, public housing tenants will have to declare their property status every 2 years after living in public housing for 2 full years. Other measures include making declarations on whether the tenant is still living in the property and whether they have fulfilled the tenancy agreement. Tenants will also need to declare if they purchase a new property within a month, otherwise their tenancy contract will be terminated. The government is considering to permit the Housing Authority to seek bank mortgage information belonging to public housing tenants from other government departments for their investigations. Authorities added that if a tenant was found to have misused the public housing scheme and have to return their unit, they would not be able to apply for public housing in the next 5 years. Opinions are divided on the policy change. This man said the updated measures are necessary and noted that government resources should be distributed to those in need instead of well-off tenants. But this tenant said the new declarations would be a hassle and that no one has the time for them. Meanwhile, lawmaker Xinjiang believes that the selection process for appropriate candidates for public housing is already stringent, saying that most tenants belong to the grassroots. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
It has been almost 4 years since the 2019 anti-government protests, which led to over 10,000 people arrested. Among them, more than half have not been prosecuted. Chief Executive John Lee said it is impractical to ask police to follow a timeline to handle protest-related cases. Mimo Sangai has more.
Police said earlier this year about 6,000 people who have been arrested in the 2019 protests have not yet been prosecuted. Commissioner of the police force Raymond Siu had told reporters that authorities had entered the final stage of the prosecution process and would provide an update in February. But the situation is still unclear. Speaking ahead of the Executive Council meeting today, Chief Executive John Lee responded to the matter and disagreed that a time schedule should be set for police to handle the cases.
It will be unrealistic to stick to a so-called timetable. The police will act in accordance with the law and according to the facts of the case. I have full confidence on them, and I will leave it to them.
However, lawmaker Gary Zhang believes authorities can increase manpower to handle the remaining cases. Zhang said he had been helping about 170 defendants involved in the protest cases. 150 had received a notice from the police saying they would not be prosecuted for now. The lawmaker said while it may be unnecessary to set a deadline, it is important to inform the relevant individuals and the public on the progress of the cases. Meanwhile, barrister and lawmaker Eunice Yong said setting a deadline is unfair to defendants from other types of cases.
I believe that every case has the special occasions on whether there are extra evidence to be collected by the police and whether there are extra witnesses and extra witness statements to be taken by the police. So all the cases have different circumstances. So it's not easy to draw a timeline or to draw a deadline, and also is unfair to other defendants on other offenses. You think if we only draw a deadline for the social unrest defendants, but how about the other?
Mimo Sangai, TVB News.
Overseas social networking platform TikTok has filed a lawsuit against the U.S. state of Montana, seeking to overturn the state's ban on the video sharing app. Daniel Rao tells us more.
The lawsuit comes after Montana Governor Greg Gianforte signed Senate Bill 419 last week, making Montana the first U.S. state to prohibit the use of or access to the social network. The law, which would take effect on January 1, 2024, would make it unlawful for TikTok to operate in the state and for the app stores of Google and Apple to offer TikTok within Montana. It would fine any entity, an app store or TikTok $10,000 per day for each time someone is offered the ability to access the social media platform or download the app. The penalties would not apply to users. The US federal government and about half of the country's states, including Montana, have already banned TikTok from government-owned devices. This with some lawmakers, the FBI and officials at other agencies having expressed concern that the video sharing app could be used to allow the Chinese government to access information on US citizens. The TikTok lawsuit argues the Montana ban violates First Amendment rights of the company and users. It also argues the ban is preempted by federal law because it intrudes upon matters of exclusive federal concern and violates the Commerce Clause of the US Constitution. It said this limits the authority of states to enact legislation that unduly burdens interstate and foreign commerce. The company added in its lawsuit that it has not shared and would not share US user data with the Chinese government and has taken substantial measures to protect the privacy and security of TikTok users. The lawsuit by TikTok follows one filed last week by 5 content creators. In Beijing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said the US has not presented evidence showing that TikTok has threatened US national security, but has kept unwarrantedly suppressing the relevant company based on the presumption of guilt. She added this is a bullying act of overstretching the concept of national security and abusing state power to suppress enterprises of other countries. Daniel Roll, TVB News.
British Home Secretary Suella Braverman is fighting to keep her job after accusations she acted improperly over events following a driving violation. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is coming under pressure to act. David Garrett reports.
Embattled British Home Secretary Suella Braverman under pressure and scrutiny after a newspaper reported she asked officials to arrange a private driving awareness course to prevent a violation becoming public.
I was speeding, I regret that. I paid the fine and I took the points.
As the Interior Minister, Braverman oversees law enforcement. Speeding itself is not a major crime. Many people in the UK get caught on surveillance cameras. Britons can opt to do group speed awareness courses to avoid fines and points being added to their licence. But she's accused of breaking the ministerial code by asking civil servants to arrange the one-to-one session. Braverman was given a chance to deny it.
Did you ask civil servants to put you on a one-on-one speeding course?
In relation to the process, I'm focused on delivering for the British people, do my job as Home Secretary. What I will say is that, in my view, I'm confident that nothing untoward has happened.
Will you resign? Are you going to face investigation?
Braverman seemingly wanted to escape the bad publicity of being seen with other offenders, but it's backfired with opposition politicians calling for the Prime Minister to sack the Home Secretary. Rishi Sunak, attending a London defence conference today, says he has confidence in the Minister, but is seeking guidance from his ethics advisor. David Garrett, TVB News.
Coming up, Thailand's opposition parties unite to try and form a government. Daughter of the late Hilton Chung Lin, Flora Chung Lin, talks about her father. Welcome back. In Thailand, the leader of the opposition Move Forward party that won in the country's general election on May 14th said 8 parties have agreed to form a coalition government with him as prime minister. This as supporters fear the military-aligned opponents may use the unelected Senate seats to block them. Tracy Furness has more.
Peter Lim Jaranrat, the leader of the Move Forward party, which won the most votes in last week's general election, signed a memorandum of understanding Monday with 7 other parties. It presents a consensus platform they hope will lead to the formation of a coalition government in July.
Memorandum of understanding is about shared values, shared commonalities, shared agenda, and also shared accountability. If we sign an MOU and we kept it to ourselves, the practicality of it is probably, not something that I could answer you directly. We're here today, right in front of you, right in front of the media, right in front of the international community. So I think that shows some sense of accountability of this memorandum of understanding, which is the first time in Thai political history.
The platform includes several of Move Forward's policies, such as drafting a new, more democratic constitution, passing a same-sex marriage law, decentralising administrative power, and transitioning from conscription to voluntary enlistment, except when the country is at war. It also calls for reforms of the police, military, civil service and the justice process. But the MOU sidesteps several thorny issues, such as the country's harsh lèse-majesté law, under which criticising the monarchy is punishable by up to 15 years in prison. The monarch is considered one of the pillars of Thai national identity. Move Forward's progressive agenda resonates with a public weary of 9 years of military-steered rule under Prime Minister Prayuth Chan-o-cha, who led the 2014 coup as army chief. However, for Lim Jaron-rat to become the country's 30th premier, he will need 376 seats from both houses of parliament. The newly formed coalition have 313 seats between them. Of the 500-member House of Representatives and the 250-member Senate that is handpicked by the military. He will need 66 votes from the Senate. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
A Cathay Pacific cabin crew was suspected of discriminating against passengers who do not speak English. The airline has suspended the relevant staff member. According to a user on Xiao Hongshu, a mainland social media and e-commerce platform, a passenger boarded a plane flying to Hong Kong from Chengdu. He heard one of the cabin crew using English and Cantonese to complain about passengers who do not speak the languages. The user uploaded a recording as evidence. In the recording, the crew said, "If you cannot say blanket in English, you cannot have it." The airline issued a statement yesterday and today saying an internal investigation had been conducted and will announce the results soon. A memorial ceremony was held last week for the ex-chairman of the former Urban Council, Hilton Chung Lin, who served on the council for a record 34 years. Chung Lin passed away last year at the age of 99. His daughter, Flora Chung Lin, spoke about her late father on TVB's Straight Talk program. Jackie Lin reports.
The late Hilton Chung Lin was one of Hong Kong's first-generation politicians, having been a member of the then Urban Council from 1957 to 1991. In colonial Hong Kong, he chaired the Civic Association, a semi-political group which focused on helping people with low income, such as hawkers, and improving education. He died last year at the age of 99. After organizing a memorial service for her late father last week, Flora Chung Lin shared on TVB News' Straight Talk program some insights about the man with decades of public service to Hong Kong.
Because he's from South America, he's used to being a minority and he fights for everything he believes in. Early age, he went to Harvard to study politics under Henry Kissinger. So he built his strength from strength. And in Hong Kong, at the time, he was the first Chinese elected, probably government person, and who can speak very good English.
Right.
His Chinese wasn't very good, but I think he believed in saving, helping, and merging all the general people and to build education.
Flora also talked about what her father taught her.
He groomed us, that we live from one crisis to another. That will never end. When he wrote in 1962 his, his first little pamphlet book, he said that Hong Kong people are going through from one crisis to another. And we just have to use individual strength and group together lots of other people's strengths from all walks of life to overcome. Things will pass.
Flora herself has several successful careers spanning ballet, movies, and fashion design, but now her focus is on education and philanthropy. She co-founded the Tian Art Foundation to promote dance for the underprivileged and orphans.
My schools are like 12, 13 years, and I put them together so the actual paying students work with non-paying students, the well-to-do with non-well-to-do. They cross-culture, groom each other. And that will bring up from all levels. There's 1,000 levels, not just rich and poor.
Jackie Lin, TVB News.
A delegation of students and teachers from Xinjiang concluded their 5-day trip to Hong Kong today as part of a cultural exchange opportunity. For many of them, it was their first time abroad. Timothy Lee spoke with a number of the students.
Young mainland dancers adorned with rich colors performing a traditional folk dance. But look more closely and you may be able to spot that they look nothing like your average Chinese person. That's because most of these young dancers are Uyghurs, a Turkic people who make up almost half of the population in Xinjiang. Flying from the city of Hotan in northwestern China, this 30-strong delegation arrived in Hong Kong for a 5-day immersion experience. They had the opportunity to interact with their local counterparts and engage in a number of activities with Hong Kong students, such as trying out local street food and even a friendly football match.
Coming to Hong Kong, I'm really happy. The locals are so passionate. I wish next time I can come to Hong Kong by myself and make even more friends. A lot of students here have close friendships with their teachers, and I wish that would be the same in Xinjiang.
The scenery and food here are both really good, especially pen chai. I love the shrimps in the dish. The weather here is different from Xinjiang, so I'm not really used to it.
Some Hong Kong students also shared their thoughts on meeting students from Xinjiang for the first time.
It is my first time talking to students from Xinjiang, and it is an absolute pleasure. As our cultures are different, it feels special, and we can take this opportunity to get and to know each other and to exchange our ideas. I would like to visit Xinjiang because they told me during the meal, they told me that Xinjiang has a very beautiful scenery.
Representatives of the delegation noted that the trip was inspired by the 20th National Congress and its message stressing youth development. It is also the first large-scale organized student tour from Xinjiang to the city. The delegation announced that they are currently working with relevant departments in the SAR to organize a tour to Xinjiang later this year, in hopes of introducing Hong Kongers to their home region.
Students in the Xinjiang delegation visited several landmarks in Hong Kong throughout their 5-day tour. They included the Legislative Council, Ocean Park, as well as Victoria Peak. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening.